Another year, another February, when I don't feel like writing a video, but feel bad if I don't do anything for the channel and just end up staring at a wall instead of playing video games or something. And since we reached 10k, the time seemed right for a community Q&A, now answered with footage of me trying and failing to beat gold stake in Balatro for the abandoned deck. Without further ado, where is Alice? At first I wanted to say still in Wonderland last I checked, but after googling the question, I have a feeling she's somewhere dark and quiet. What will it take to save us all? If I had a satisfying answer to that, I would be acting on it, or at least I'd like to believe that I would. For now, it's all about building up enough stability to be able to help others sometimes. Gonna keep the tradition. What's the thing/day you look forward to the most and fear the most this year? Me and my lovely missus have been talking about getting a pet for some time now, and now that I have a paycheck again, we're slowly working towards making sure we're ready for one. So I'm looking forward to that. As for fear, I don't know, having to square my feelings when Pathologic 3 comes out, I suppose. That or my government deciding it's a great idea to throw our collective face into the pavement because the US is doing it. I ran out of questions or something, so how was your day? I mean, day I write this, day you read this, or maybe day Q&A will be posted, it's up to you. I wanted to answer for the day I first read it, but now I genuinely don't remember how that day was. Uneventful, I suppose. The day of me writing this script was nifty. I made a banger beef stew and finished watching Castlevania Nocturne Season 2, so I'm happy. New job has worked out pretty well so far, even if I have to wake up at the ungodly hour of 6 AM, so even the vision of going there tomorrow is not hampering my mood. Top 5 items in your collection. Oh man, never thought to rank them. The Jill Stingray plushie sitting on my PC for self-evident reasons, the PC itself because I would die of boredom without it, the chipped porcelain kitchen knife I've had for the past decade, a business suit that looks like oil spilled on wet asphalt because it's cool as hell, my wedding ring because every now and then I knock against a hard surface and go hehe. You're in a zombie apocalypse. What item from your home do you use to defend yourself? The cheap power drill set I have is probably the thing closest to a weapon that I own. Maybe I can throw my Roomba at one of the Walking Dead, that bitch is heavy, we call her Dorothy. But after that I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die. What are your top 5 favorite albums? Not much of a music head, but let's see. For a recency bias spot, I'll go for Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. First exposure bias would probably go to Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. For the 3 spots in between, Protoman's Act 2 The Father of Death, Nine Inch Nails' The Downward Spiral, and David Bowie's Black Star. What was your favorite and least favorite video you did or edited? Least favorite is easy, the Attack on Titan analysis. Not even related to my points in it, but for some goddamn reason it took several night-long renders, it flagged a ton of copyright bots, I was using Vegas back then and it broke several times during rendering and in editing. One gag just got completely gutted because an image disappeared and I didn't feel like rendering that shit again. I delisted it because it's the only video I never went back to see if I still like it, which I did for everything else at some point. And I don't feel like returning to the topic anytime soon to redo it. As for a favorite, let's see. I'm really proud of the writing on the Disco Elysium mega video, but editing it was somewhat boring because how large chunks of it are just finding one dialogue scene and leaving it there for 5 minutes. The second Tidbits video was watched by exactly nobody, but I really liked talking about and visualizing my traumatic canon event of playing Final Fantasy X in French. Also, it was fun to get Ragnaroks and Mama Bedlam to do me a solid by voicing a skid in it. The Fire Punch video was not edited by me, which is why it was fun to just throw words at my editors and see what they come up with visually. So it's a tie between these 3, I think. On a scale of 1 to 10, how whimsical are you? Also, how was your day? A 6 maybe? Doing things for the fun of it is my primary motivator, but I'm also someone with a resting bitch face and a gallows sense of humor. And my day has been pretty nice, thank you. How do you feel about the surge of Project Moon fans of Roblox games? I don't really see myself as a part of any fandom, including Project Moon, so I don't really care. If they found themselves really liking games like LobCorp and Ruina, more power to them. I could be a grognard and say a game where the majority of players are children probably shouldn't have mods recreating adults-only properties like the 2 aforementioned games, but I played GTA 3 when I was 8, I have no room to judge. Can I ask any question? Yes! Have you participated in leftist spaces such as unions, associations or collectives? If so, what was your experience? If not, what would it take for you to try it out? No job I've had was bad enough for the workers to entertain the idea of unionizing. As soulless as corporate work can sometimes be, they're really good at keeping in line with the demands of the labor law because they don't want to deal with the legal cost of being dragged into a court. And the Polish regulations regarding that stuff are pretty strict and pro-worker, especially compared to what I hear about the situation in the US. Politically, our The Left party is a bunch of neoliberal cheerleaders, so I don't feel too inclined to carry leaflets for them either. The closest thing to a commune I experienced is my household because there's 3 people here splitting the bills and responsibilities. As for what it would take, if my coworkers start talking about unionizing, I'm gonna join in on the principle of it. I'm just not gonna be the one organizing it because I barely remember their names and faces. I would be a terrible person to serve as a representative of anyone. First off, congrats on 10k, hope for many more as you are IMO, one of the best essayists in the space. Now for the questions. 1. Favorite books plus favorite Polish book you think should be more well known outside of Poland? Thank you, I appreciate it. As for the books, I got into Dune way harder than I thought I ever would. The first book and God Emperor of Dune in particular were spectacular. While it's not a plot book, I really cherish the transcripts of Foucault's 1981 lectures in Louvain about the meaning of a confession in justice systems, including completely unfair trials where the guilt was presupposed, that I got as a part of a course when studying. It more than anything is responsible for me trying to stop and consider, wait, why is that a thing when writing for videos, especially for things that seem obvious? Same deal for Hannah Arendt's Eichmann in Jerusalem, a report on banality of evil, when it comes to viewing how ill-fitting to reality it is to view evil as something grand and theatrical. As for fiction, as basic of an answer as that is, I really enjoyed GRRM's Song of Ice and Fire series, and boy am I sad we're gonna be stuck on a cliffhanger forever. Polish books-wise, I think Stanisław Lem's output is great. He is best known for Solaris, since that got movie adaptations, but he also introduced highly philosophical questions like what is nothing to children through stories about robots with silly names. He is in that Lovecraft space though, as in he wrote about ideas and his characters are flat as a fucking plank. I also like Ferdydurkę by Witold Gombrowicz, or at least I did as a teen, but I have no idea how well it would translate considering it's pretty tongue-in-cheek with its use of language. I also heard many good things about Jakub Żulczyk's Blinded by the Lights, and apparently it got a well-received miniseries on Max, so I know what I'm watching soon. 2. What kind of music do you usually listen to? And again, are there any Polish songs / bands / pieces which you would recommend? I have a bad habit of getting stuck in a recommendation loop on YouTube, so sometimes it's nothing but bands like Hednin Garna, the next time it's a bunch of dad rock or video game soundtracks. I mostly gravitate towards purely instrumental stuff or songs with vocals I can understand, because hearing Polish or English suddenly just distracts me. Polish Rex. As per my last video, I really like putting on Republica's stuff from time to time. When they disbanded in 1986, the vocalist started a solo career as Obywatel GC with hired help on the instruments, and I really like that output as well. And if you liked the ending song for Cyberpunk Edgerunners, you may want to check out the other songs by Dawid Podsiadło. 3. Thoughts on Sunless Skies specifically and in when compared to seas. I think I might be the only one to prefer the atmosphere of skies, especially due to the bleakness of the lore, but would love to hear your thoughts on it. I love how absolutely, unrepentantly awful Britain is in skies. No longer on the back foot, the Empire reaches towards the stars and show that it learned nothing underneath. And the gameplay is better, no two ways about it. But I also never beat it. Sunless Sea took me years to finally get a playthrough to completion, so that's to be expected, but still I feel like my opinion is not worth much until I do. 4. Any thoughts you would be willing to share about the pathologic-free situation? Thanks in advance for answering and all the best. Man, yeah, I don't know. The evidence of Dubowski being a wife-beating shit is overwhelming, and I know for a fact that the English translations we got are not misrepresenting anything, because some folks I know that were formerly associated with IPL shared it. I do not want a single cent of my money to land in his pockets, which feels horribly unfair to everyone else in the team who are at no fault in this situation. Do I just pirate it? Do I talk about it like I intended, passively encouraging others to purchase it? On a completely selfish level, this is not a J.K. Rowling situation, where that money has a chance of directly harming people I know, talk with and enjoy the company of. I do not know any of these people personally. But I also do not fucking want my money and voice to embolden a piece of shit who's entrenched in a position of power as the head of a studio and a university professor. It also feels laughable that I want to finally play and cover The Void at some point, given its themes. Lots of feelings, none of them sorted. Probably gonna wait a year again and see if he at least gets flogged in public. What are some games, or any of this sort of entertainment really, that you'd recommend but haven't extensively talked about in your videos? Just kinda curious, because I always thought you had some good taste in this sort of stuff, and I even ended up picking up some stuff you mentioned in videos and posts and generally liked it all. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength, always nice to see. Despite my most viewed videos being about narrative-heavy games, I don't think they make up the majority of my game time. Balatro ate up my 2024, I have Open Transport Tycoon Deluxe installed as the first thing on any new computer, because my cousins showed me that game when I was like 5 and I still get an inkling to start it and build some railroads every now and then. I put an ungodly amount of hours into Civ 4, and one day I will finish a run of the Caveman to Cosmos mod. I've really enjoyed Tactical Bridge Wizards recently, and it put an idea for a video in my head, but it's still fermenting. I put on Vampire Survivors from time to time for that dopamine rush of experience gems going brrr. Same for Holocure, despite not being a VTuber fan. I also really like the first remake, it's the only game I did a speedrun of for the fun of it. For more narrative titles, Alpha Protocol is, to this day, probably the most reactive RPG ever, and anyone complaining about its gameplay has no rights. Because while uninspired, it's on the level of, like, the first Mass Effect. Metaphor ReFantasio was fantastic, and I gotta do a video on it this year, I think. And I will never make a video on mouthwashing, because you should just grab it and play it, it's 2 hours long. And I played Fallout New Vegas like 3 times, and god dang it, I'll do it the 4th time and make a video someday. But if I'm to make one recommendation only, it would be none of the above. Instead, go play Gothic, because it's a wonderful piece of junk and might as well be part of DNA for Polish guys around my age. Have you ever thought of writing fiction for any kind of media, or writing articles/essays to publish online? That would be awesome. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Writing articles and essays is, well, what this channel is for. I have trouble reading that stuff myself because I get distracted, so it's only fair that if I want to write something, I voice it and put it on YouTube or somewhere else. As for fiction, boy have I. There sure are unfinished scenes, character ideas and word outlines on my HDD and in my head, all unconnected to one another. Sometimes I use tabletop RPGs with friends as an outlet for some of them, but I would like to actually make a full narrative of my own, from start to finish. The problem is sitting my ass down and doing it. Hell yeah, dude, I love procrastinating. Massive congrats on the 10k, well deserved. Hell yeah, man. Thanks. What do you wish people knew about your country, your people, and the experience of growing up/living there? Heck, what are the Polish even like? I hear there's some nasty far-right politics going on, but I don't know much else. Any group of people is complex, so I don't think I can accurately paint a picture here. I could say that most people I ever met were lovely, welcoming, and the worst thing I experienced in the streets was a drunk guy trying to start a fight because I had long hair back then. In the same breath, I could say that complaining is a national pastime, and sometimes it can be difficult to separate performative group doomsaying from genuine pessimism, and I found myself not even being sure of my own degree of seriousness sometimes. I could say how there is a wonderful, long history full of artists like Jan Matejko, scientists like Copernicus or Maria Curie-Skłodowska, freedom fighters like Tadeusz Kościuszko. At the same time, I would be remiss not to mention that I recognize specific streets of the city I live in when watching Schindler's List, and I can visit all Oscar's factory after a 20-minute trip by tram. If I were to describe the overall sentiment of people here, it's this volatile mixture of superiority and inferiority complexes. Feelings of being ignored by the larger world despite how important we think our part in it is. Ready to step into the limelight at any moment, but always held back by some convenient excuse. I think it's pretty common for mid-sized nations. I recently watched a documentary on how South Koreans pumped themselves about their studies into genetics in the early 2000s that turned out to be a scam, and the reaction of the public to the scandal felt eerily similar. Ah yes, the great America was jealous of Korea and tried to sabotage it. Where have I heard that story before? What do I wish that people understood about this place? For the purpose of this channel, that Nintendo's maps of Europe ended on Germany until like the release of the Switch, and I'm not gonna ever talk about Zelda or something. Politically, that nationalism is to be expected when every child knows this country was wiped off the map for 123 years, came back after World War I, and the majority of the literature canon was written in exile. Personally, that żurek is a fucking awesome soup and you should look up a recipe for it. As for politics, on paper we have a multi-party system, but the majority has been ping-ponging between two parties in the past 2 decades. Hardcore Catholic Ma Family Values fellows who spew xenophobic and homophobic shit while passing economically left-wing laws like basic income for any family with children, and center-right Ma Westernization progress types who get elected on promises of social reform, never fulfill them, and then flirt with market deregulation, healthcare privatization, and becoming more like the US. The latter are currently in power. The party calling themselves the left are a bunch of cheerleaders for the landlords. The far-right party translates the latest Republican scare 2 weeks later without fail. As the local joke goes, chujowo, ale stabilnie. It's shit, but it's stable. Love and videos. My question is, what kind of Easter eggs would you include if you had the opportunity to make a game? The number 2137 scribbled on some wall is my first idea, but that's the point in me speaking. Other than that, if it was an FPS, a low percentage chance for the protagonist to say, I needed a medic bug, after picking up a healing item. In an RPG, a duo of town guards wearing green and orange that you can interact with, looking at some wall. For a strategy game, a small quest chain about an outbreak of common cold in one of your towns, spiraling into a small disaster because 3 healers were dispatched and they ended up arguing over philosophy rather than helping. Anything with a character creator or equipment gear, an ill-fitting wig of purple twintails. Who is the murderer? Officer, I swear it wasn't me. It should be the ones you least suspect but are still a little off. Like, that little girl singing a more ad jingle over there. Missed the chance to go on an anti-structuralist Murder of the Authors creed, so next on priority is: how has gacha hell been treating you? Any other genre warped by a far monetization culture interest you, in either game design fascination or wider game economics? Also, how's the OST? Millie still doing bangers, right? Surprisingly well, I have literally everything except for the announcers because I'm not gonna go out of my way to get anything not related to gameplay. And yes, Millie is still doing bangers without fail. You should absolutely check the songs out. And honestly, Studio AIM is banging out the tunes for regular scenes and combat too. As for anything else warped by monetization, I'm not touching Magic in a non-digital format ever. I love them cards. I like playing around with them and imagining the possibilities. Every mention of the second-hand market makes me feel like there's worms under my skin that I need to dig out with a screwdriver. First off, congrats as well on hitting the greedy with your 10k subs, you have more than earned it. My question is, what are your thoughts on the recent development of all the Disco Elysium clones that are coming out now that the devs have split up into different dev teams making their own games? Thank you! I'm waiting with some anticipation, honestly. Best case scenario, several cakes. I do hope they all succeed in their projects and there is space for all of them. Also, obligatory plug for Argo Tuulik's GoFundMe, as he's willing to take the fight over Disco's IP to courts. I'll link it in the description. Also, can you give us a fun fact about Poland? Linguistic fun fact: pierogi is plural, singular is pieróg, so hearing someone say I ate a good pierogi is always silly, but I get it. Tourist/historic fun fact: we have the world's biggest castle that is still standing in Malbork. It used to belong to the Teutons before we kicked their asses in 1410. Societal fun fact: there is an ongoing civil war between fans of 2 mayonnaise brands. The Kielecki mayonnaise is good for eggs, salads and sandwiches, and the Winiary mayonnaise is good for fucking nothing and belongs in the trash. Congrats on the 10k, also been procrastinating writing something for the literary references in DE, so I share the struggle. Since the book question has been asked, I want to know what are your favorite movies, Polish or otherwise. Thank you and good luck with that, let me know if you finish it. For the favorite movies overall, I watched Django last year and really loved it. Overall favorites are probably Terminator 2, Perfect Blue and Oldboy. As for Polish movies, I really liked Bogowie or Gods, about the first heart transplant in Poland. From last year, Kos, or Scarborn as it was translated for some reason, was a neat Django at home, drawing parallels between Polish serfs and American slaves. Potop, or The Deluge, is an absolute classic. You probably saw some YouTuber talk about the sword fighting in that movie. And animation-wise, Loving Vincent is in large part a Polish production, same as Chłopi, or The Peasants, by the same studio. The latter is even an adaptation of a Polish book. Dlaczego żona mnie opuściła? Bo jesteś pan menda, co się nocami szlaje do domu, nie wraca, panie. Did you ever think about leaving your country or city? As a teenager, I did think I would leave the country. I even applied for Cambridge, but nobody explained what the hell a gap year is to me, and I sent the papers well before my high school finals. Obviously, I got rejected and thought that's it and never tried again. Not that it would help, I was always told that the only thing that matters is that final exam and not the extracurricular stuff. Nobody keeps track of that here. I moved out of my hometown when I was 18 to study 600 kilometers away in Kraków. And here I stayed because, man, I love my parents dearly, but I do not think staying near them would be good to any party involved. Also the city rules. I don't think I'm gonna leave Poland permanently. It may be shit, but losing me would make it even worse. Congrats on 10k subs and being alive. Now I will give you the polymerization card. Which two games would you like to fuse? And make me a combo including one food item from a game and one drink from another. Thank you, I didn't think I would last that long, in both cases. For my polymerization, we're slapping together King of Dragon Pass and Baldur's Gate 3, because I just really want a full-blown RPG set in Gloranta. For your meal, please enjoy our past and future special, the finest wall chicken from Dracula's castle, washed down with Glitch City's iconic Bat Touch. Have you ever seen a design or heard of a piece of writing that you absolutely love, but was from a genre/form of media that you could not engage with at all? Or do you just stubbornly try to consume the parts you hate for the sake of it? I tell myself it's not so much genre or form holding me back, but lack of time. And of course, there are a ton of these things. Books like House of Leaves, games like The Void, films like The Seventh Seal. I just call them a backlog and I will die with a million things still on it. IDK if this is a good question, but what is your favorite abnormality from any PM related stuff? Hey, every question is a good question. I love the Freischutz on a visual design level. For ego gear, I think I like Apocalypse Bird the most, because I'm still an edgy teenager at heart. And when it comes to just mechanical design, I love the Schadenfreude and Burrowing Heaven being polar opposites in what they ask for in LobCorp. I think it's really interesting. These be my questions. 1. What are your 2 favorite food dishes from Poland? If you want to shout out more than 2, please do. First go-to is always żurek, which is a sour rice soup, traditionally served in a bread bowl, though obviously nobody got time for that unless you go to a restaurant. And while it may be a simple thing, Silesian dumplings are just plain old potato dumplings with a little hole in them to hold the sauce, and I think they may be the perfect form of potato. Definitely my favorite part of visiting the in-laws. And since Fat Thursday is coming up, I have to shout out the Polish donuts with rose jam and the semkacz cake. That last one is more of a Lithuanian thing, but I grew up in the East and it was just a constant. 2. What is the first game villain that comes to mind? Do mention which game, please. Miracle, the god of death in Neverwinter Nights 2, the Mask of Betrayer. As much grief as I give D&D for oversaturating everything, it sure can deliver on an epic scale when the story designers decide to get comfortable and sidestep the kingdom is under attack by an evil overlord stories in favor of an ancient hunger is devastating your body and soul, go find the corpse of a god that started it and talk to it. 3. What is the first Disco Elysium character that comes to mind, besides Kim and Tequila Sunset, and why? Kuno, easily. That stupid gremlin child is the future. And Kuno posting is just really funny. 4. What was the last anime series you really enjoyed watching for the first time? If not last year, which year was it? Slightly cheating here, but last year I read the entire manga for Dungeon Meshi just as the adaptation was starting, and goddamn what a story. Can't wait to see the second half of it in motion. Grats on the 10k. 2 questions. 1. Are there any video games that you think are interesting to try out, but don't have enough content for a full video? Thank you! And yes, most of them. It may just be my own stubbornness, but I don't like just repeating what feels self-evident to me if you experience the story in any way. Me talking about it is less interesting than just experiencing the story for yourself. So I would either rob those who never experienced it, or bore those who did. So there needs to be something extra for me to grab there, something that makes me ask by why is it like that, and try to put an answer into words. 2. What's your opinion on the whole Zaum ownership situation? I wish Argo Tuulik all the best in the courtroom, and I hope the parasites that thought they can survive after killing their host body get what they deserve. Are you interested in VNs more broadly besides Valhalla and Fate, and would talk about them on your channel? Also, I'm in the middle of Full Metal Demon Muramasa and feel the need to spread the word to go read it. I've read some of them, but I'm not sure I would call myself a connoisseur of any kind. To be specific, I read Umineko, Sharin no Kuni, Jisenjo no Mao, Katawa Shoujo and Saya no Uta. If you're not a pedant about having some gameplay elements, then we can also count a majority of the Ace Attorney games, 999, both AI the Somnium File games, Hotel Dusk and Last Window. Also, I'm pretty sure I played another code, but I don't remember jack about that game's story. As for Muramasa, I've had its shortcuts stare at me from my desktop for the past year or so, because I know this will be a video one day. This one might be a bit easy to answer, but what are your favorite and least favorite types of post-apo settings, respectively? Broad strokes, but I like to see the apocalypse change things somewhat. New societies being born, new ways of life being discovered, the landscape shifting, nature reclaiming cities. Putting the apocalypse so far in the past that it might as well have happened to Babylon. A lot of post-apo stories are just, man, I can't imagine life without modern society. And it's like, yeah man, me neither, that's why I turned to fiction to find something, come on. What's your ultra kill high score PB? Man, I didn't even get P rank in everything, I'm not keeping score. I'm definitely not a high skill player. Congrats on both 10k and for another year on YouTube. 5 main questions, taking formatting from the top comments. 1. What is a project you initially wanted to do but eventually had to drop for one reason or another? Could be a video, artwork of some sort, etc. Thank you. As for the project, there's always something. A big one I had in mind was Lobotomy Corporation for those who never play it. A sort of amateur-hour theatrical play adaptation of the game. But considering the silent nature of the protagonist, there would need to be a lot of writing around it to make it more of a dialogue. Not to mention slapping the script on the desk of like 20 people for the voice acting. Still, one day I would like to have it click. For now it's just spinning in some dark corner of my head like a high-res render of a rat. 2. What are your favorite 5 pieces of media? Games, books, shows, movies, anime, songs, manga, etc. that you haven't covered on the channel yet, what about them makes them special for you? Oh, I did try to cover my absolute faves at some point, so that does make me think. For anime, I'm gonna be that guy here, but Legend of Galactic Heroes is generally something everyone should watch at some point, because it's an insanely touching human drama where you want to cheer for both sides for different reasons, mixed with some dry as boring spaceship battles. For video games, Hotline Miami is something I replay like once every 2 years for that high of digital high-speed violence, and I'm never gonna make a video on it because the OST is copyright hell, but not including it in the video feels wrong. Live action TV wise, I'm gonna say that I would put Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul ex aequo, because they are both brilliant, one as a non-stop tension machine, and the other as just an amazing story with much lower stakes. And for the 5th, let's say the song Life Eternal by Ghost, because it was the first dance at our wedding. 3. I'm not sure if you've mentioned this before, but how did you get into the Project Moon community and how did you first find the games? Asked distinctly, because for me at least, those were different events. For my 28th birthday, a friend sent me a code for Library of Ruina saying, "Hey, I never played it, but from what I've heard it sounds like your kind of deal." I decided to give it a whirl to not be an asshole, despite the game being marked as being in early access. And now here I am. Though I wouldn't say I'm part of any community, I just chill in the basement, come up once a year, drop a video on the floor, grab a box of cereal and go back down. 4. Have you ever done any traveling? If so, what was your favorite thing you saw? I've been to Belgium, Germany, Croatia a few times, Turkey, Tunisia, Greece and the United States. As much as I don't feel like moving to New York ever in my life, the Metropolitan and Natural Science museums in there are fucking spectacular and everyone should visit them if they get the chance. But as for a singular thing I want to point out, there is a whole district just covered in street art on the island of Djerba in Tunisia, and it's rad as all hell. The project was called Djerbahood, you can google it. 5. What is a piece of media that you feel has underappreciated themes and aspects of it that large parts of its community ignore? Alternatively, what is an unpopular interpretation you have had of a piece of media? Hope these questions are good and I wish you progress towards the next milestone. I saw a bunch of people describe the first Fallout game as bleak, and I severely disagree, because it really feels like a game about how resilient humanity is. Aside from that, I'm getting a lot of flack for saying The Sopranos is a traditional American family sitcom, with the twist that the dad is a gangster played completely straight. Why are they booing me? I'm right! I forgot one in my main comment. Is there a story behind the YouTube profile pic? I always assumed it was a LobCorp nugget that was significant to you. Nah, it was just my buddy Bart on Twitter being bored and making MS Paint drawings of characters using this meme as a template. And I said he should do Jill Stingray from Valhalla. I never had an idea for a visual identity of the channel, so I just used it. Though one day I feel like I might commission a Ranzona sprite shit. Probably Diogenes in a badly fitting Jill wig. Congrats on the milestone. 1. If you drink, what's your favorite kind of alcoholic drink, whether it be specific brand or a cocktail? Thank you, pina coladas. I'm gonna die on a beach with one of them in hand, ideally. Also a big fan of Polish mead. 2. Have you ever tried writing any original works of fiction? Tried is the operative word here, yes. There are a bunch of unfinished scripts and free-floating ideas in here. Sometimes a core of it becomes a video, sometimes a TTRPG character or campaign. But hey, Thomas Hobbes was like 60 when Leviathan came out, I keep hope. 3. Do you think it's worth experiencing movies/games/books that are just plain bad, whether it's in a so bad it's good way or not? How would you know if it's bad if you don't experience it, I say? If something seems interesting, go for it. Maybe because it has an element you like, maybe because you want to figure out how exactly they want to make the idea of a killer car tire scary. There is something worse than being bad, and that's being boring. Replaying games. Thoughts? I genuinely don't get people who say they replay or rewatch something on a yearly schedule or less. Like, good for them, but if it was anything longer than 3 hours, I would feel like I would be better off experiencing something new. That said, once enough time has passed, yeah, I do feel like re-experiencing something. 1. Favorite team to run MDs with? Thinking goes brrr. Currently it's Spicebush Yisang, Wild Hunt Heathcliff, Reindeer Ish, Dichi Rodia, Butler Otis and Gregor Linton. 2. If you are making a Project Moon Vampire Survivors type game, what in-universe items would you use as weapons and passives? For example, I would use G-Corp Augmentation Arm for a slashing whip-like weapon and Kurokumo tattoos for passive damage up, asking for a friend. Carmen's hairband thingy as a cursed object that gives more XP for slashing your HP down, Ham Ham Pam Pam Sandwich for passive HP regen, library books thrown at an arc, Lobcorp Gebura armband for lower attack cooldown, some smoke weapon because it's the funniest archetype in Ruina. 3. What topics should I add to the next trivia? MS Paint cover redraws for fire, either do that or transplant the gimmick for anime screenshots or something. Also play Omori. Huh. Yeah, I probably should someday. Have you read Umineko? I finished it recently and absolutely loved it, and I figure it would be your kind of thing. Oh, I was in the trenches as it was releasing. Waiting half a year for each episode to get translated was genuinely hellish for a high school age me, who was even more impatient than I am now. It's absolutely a classic, glad you liked it. Congrats on the 10k, you deserve it. YouTube really likes Nvidia analysis and discussion from European people. Thank you, I appreciate it. 1. Have you ever visited Romania or Denmark? In any case, thoughts on the countries? Unfortunately, not yet. I would like to visit both of them, but out of these two, Denmark would probably be my priority, to be honest. 2. Thoughts on Welcome to the NHK, either anime, manga or novel? I started the anime years ago, but fell off for some reason. Life just got in the way, I suppose. I do need to get back to it. 3. Give me your best critique and praise of Poland. When I was 16, I lied to my parents that me and some friends were going to a lake for 2 weeks. Instead, I did a tour across the entire country by train to visit some online friends. The worst thing that happened to me was eating a Pop-Tart that me and my buddy bought from a US import store. This thing's fucking suck, dog. As for critique, for the past 20 years I've heard promises of either building a nuclear power plant or civil partnership being given the same rights as marriage. We've still got neither of these things. 4. What gameplay mechanics do you think make good fit for storytelling that separate the medium from film and literature, and in turn create a special experience? The contextualization of button input is huge, I think. Something you got used to using over of hours of playing suddenly being taken away or changing its context. Similarly, the tactility of making you make an input for a character to do something, even if you have no control over the decision yourself. The big one for me being MGS3 asking you to pull the trigger for the final time yourself, not doing it in a cutscene. And the fact that for games with a more zoomed out perspective like strategy games, a single title can include several what-if scenarios without them colliding into each other. 5. Opinions on Rammstein. I like them and their concerts are a spectacle like no other, but I'm not exactly listening to them often. I know the video is a year old, but I discovered your channel through the Disco Elysium Mega Analysis and I wanted to congratulate you on some of the best writing about that game I've seen. On that note, given the variable length of your videos, how do you determine when a script is done? Is it just when you've said all you wanted to say about the video's topic, or is there nuance to that? I'm gonna sound like a freak to anyone with any experience in writing video essays, but I start at the beginning and I finish at the end. I have a rough idea of where I wanna go, but I care about the flow, having one piece connect to another, more than I do about being extensive or making an argument. Sometimes on a reread or when recording the audio, I'll find something I missed that I can fit in between paragraphs, or I will trim down some fat, but that's about it. I feel like the prevailing interpretation of the phrase video essay is similar to a school essay, trying to present a thesis. For me, it's more akin to an opinion piece. I experienced this, and because of it, I want to talk about that, which connects to smack. It might just be because the word for school essays in Polish is different, I don't have that connection in my brain, just like I swear much more liberally in English, because saying fuck doesn't make me feel like it makes my mom sad. It feels less rigid, more innocent, so I can do whatever the hell I want. That disco video in particular was a second one on that game, because at first I just wanted to give a spoiler-free recommendation. But after years of fermenting in my head, man, I really wanted to talk about everything, because everything in that game is interconnected. P.S. Congrats on reaching 10k subs, it's a big milestone and hopefully a good sign for the future. Thank you! How do you know all those literal references? Sometimes you make connections that aren't even in the wiki. I guess concisely, how do you do research? I mean, hey, the people in the wikis had to make do without them as well, right? The process is a wheel if I had to describe it. First I read the thing, then I think if that rings any bells. If it does, I try to find a source to make sure I get it right and I'm not just repeating urban myths or something. With the knowledge that this thing is there, go back to the source material. Does the knowledge that this element is a reference or inspired by something external to the work itself make something else stand out? Did the source I find in itself make me look at the original work in a new light? Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Wikis are a good starting point to see if I missed something and put that into the loop. After all, I haven't read everything there is, but I do have an unhealthy amount of trivia stuck in my head, so that helps. The more times you make the wheel spin, the smoother it turns on that axle. Which advice would you give to someone who wanna make video essays? This website is a casino and you're talking with a card counter. I'm not winning it big, but I am getting consistently bigger returns on my investment of time, and one day they're gonna kick me out of here. With that in mind, do an essay on whatever, don't worry about the quality. Keep your big idea for the second video, because you'll never feel like you're doing it justice on the first try. When making that whatever essay, find an element of that process you like, be it researching, writing or editing, and cling to it for dear life, because at least one part of this entire process is gonna be unbearably boring, it's audio editing. And that one really cool part is gonna push you through it. And don't follow trends just to follow them, you'll drown in a massive pool of much bigger sharks. Only do videos on whatever you want. It's not one for them, one for you. It's one for you, and one for you, and another one for you. The algo is there to make that find its own audience. And it's liberating, just as much as it fucking sucks. Quantum physics prevent potatoes from being fried in space. Here, get a heart for late Valentine's Day, and congrats on the milestone. Ah, thank you. And apparently, they successfully fried a potato in space. Having this knowledge during the Cold War would have made USSR win the space race, man. Congratulations on 10k, love your videos very much, I'm finding myself always picking up some golden concept nuggets from your videos. Thank you, and I just wanna say, that's a cool ass Residence avatar. 1. Who is your favorite sinners in LC? Heathcliff? I thought I would hate him based on the source material, but no, that bugger is a treasure. Also, Ryoshu is unquestionably the funniest person in the bus, and I'm awaiting her canto with giddiness. 2. Favorite skills in Disco Elysium? Electrochemistry gets me, but Shivers is the one making sense of it all. 3. Class, Wizard, Bard, Gunslinger, Hacker, all that jazz, not just conventional D&D classes, on which you have most often played in the RPGs or TTRPGs, or the one you have most fun playing. I prefer classless system usually, but as far as archetypes go, as a teen I loved rogues, in my early 20s I was all about mages, now I just want a big guy with an even bigger stick that lets me roll fistfuls of dice for damage. 4. Favorite TTRPG/board game, maybe both. Gloranta for the setting, GURPS for the I have an idea but I don't want to look for a system that is close to what I need, I want a Lego set to build it. I also had plenty of fun with Blades in the Dark recently. For board games we have been playing a lot of Arkham Horror LCG in the past months. Also the original Dune board game that I bought on a whim and became a mainstay of evenings when we have 6 people in the house. 5. Favorite game mechanics. Very broad question, but for example, vampirism, deal damage, replenish health, damage reduction, shields, armor, being tanky, glass cannons, enemies skill stealing, anything. Setting up everything for a huge powerful hit that should have an abysmal chance to hit. Also, vampirism in a way, but not just HP stealing, but a constant ebb and flow of pushing yourself to low health to maximize damage, only to get it back because the gamble paid off. I guess I just like gambling. Except in card games. In card games, I run mill decks and make my opponents miserable, taking their toys away. 6. Do you have any favorite paintings which you remember vividly, as if the image was laser cut inside your brain? As stupid as it sounds, René Magritte's treachery of images is just lodged in my brain, and every now and then I just look at something and go "Sesi nepa une pipe" for no reason. Aside from that, Ilya Yemovich Repin's reply of the Zaporozhian Cossacks, because it's a wonderfully mischievous piece. It probably helps that the letter itself is pretty well known in Poland, as well as wonderfully vulgar when translated. Also, I think works of Tsukumizu might be interesting for you. There are very peculiar spins on the slice of life genre in his mangas. Have fun procrastinating. Oh, that's the author of Girls Last Tour, isn't it? Yeah, I gotta check that out. Grats on the 10k. What silly little things, not worthy of a mention, have you been into lately? Thanks! And honestly, the silliest little thing giving me joy recently is a YouTube channel called A Dad Who Lived, where a guy does skits about being a regular as father in a young adult novel. Guy made like 7 hours of these things in a year, and as these things tend to do, it developed its own continuity and lore after spoofing every popular book about chosen ones under the sun.